Okay, so good afternoon. I'm Julia Coakley, Head of Operations, and on behalf of the MGAA, I'd like to welcome you to our webinar this afternoon, which is being hosted by Percayso. Before I introduce our presenters, I'd like to run through a few housekeeping points, if I may. Please ensure that your microphone and camera is off. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen, which will be answered during the Q&A session following the presentation. If we do run out of time and don't have an opportunity to put your question to our speakers, our presenters will be happy to pick this up post-event. This presentation is accredited for CPD points if relevant to your ongoing professional development programme. The video will be available on our website and uploaded to our YouTube channel, and we will be providing a copy of the slide deck post-event. Please do take time to respond to our feedback survey, which will be issued after this webinar, as this will enable us to deliver the best quality events to our membership. So today's webinar, the MGA's Guide to a Successful Data Enrichment Strategy, is brought to you by Percayso, and I'd like to introduce you to Richard Tomlinson, MD of Percayso Inform Limited, Toby McLaughlin, MD Ignite Software Systems Limited, and John Garrard, MD Wrapper Insure. Richard, after building a variety of successful commercial teams at Experian for over 18 years, ran the global commercial team at communications specialist S&X, after which he joined TransUnion as sales director before founding his own consultancy business. As MD at Percayso, Richard has overall responsibility for all aspects of strategy, sales and operations. Toby has been MD of Ignite Software Systems for 7 years. Ignite licenses its highly automated and data-enriched policy administration platform to digitally savvy brokers and MGAs across the UK. John is a highly motivated, dedicated and results-driven insurance executive with an impressive track record of leading business digitalisation and transformation and delivering income and revenue growth in niche insurance markets. Specialist expertise in digital marketing and product development. Wrapper Insure is an innovative personal lines broker specialising in leisure and lifestyle insurance cover using the latest technology and market-leading software. Their digital-first approach is designed to support customers to design and buy the exact cover they need quickly, easily and securely, 100% online, 100% of the time. Using AI and intuitive tech for back-office automation and data validation, they're able to deliver an enhanced and streamlined experience for the modern consumer. So Richard, if I might hand over to you.
Thank you, Julia. Fantastic. And yeah, well, thanks to Julia, thanks to the MGA for this opportunity, and thanks for the great work that I believe the MGA is doing in this really important sector. So what I wanted to run through, and as Julia was saying, you've got kind of 3 for the price of 1 here. So we've got Toby from Ignite, and we've also got John from Wrapper to follow me to kind of give their unique perspective on things. But first of all, I'm going to, sorry, I'm just running through. There we go. Technology, eh? I'm going to run through really the introduction and purpose around what we're talking about here, and obviously we're talking about an effective data enrichment strategy and what the principal components of that are, and then I'll hand over to Toby from then on. So I think the first thing to say is that you know, we certainly see this, and most of the clients that we work with see this as a journey. And everyone's starting at a different place, and everyone's, you know, kind of at a different place on that journey. And, you know, some people are at the start, and, you know, Wrapper by their very nature, you know, having recently launched, are, you know, quite early on that journey, but they've got grand ambitions. And I think that's the important thing, really, to really think about what you want to achieve, and where you want to go, what your current capability is, and therefore what that roadmap really looks like for you. And, you know, you need to be realistic and you need to understand what the capability of your organisation is, but also have a keen sight, a keen awareness of what good looks like, what the best in the market are doing, and potentially what you can be aiming for. And it might be that you're just, as ever, taking one or two things from this and from, from those examples of kind of really market leading data enrichment strategies and looking to implement those within your organization. So, and I'm conscious that, there's a lot of people on this call and everyone's going to be at different stages. So, I don't want to teach people to suck eggs, and, equally, there's going to be people that are right at the start. So, hopefully we can cover all of those bases off. But what I'm going to kind of really try and get to the nub of is, what does a really market leading data enrichment strategy look like? And we start with the purpose, really. We start with the why. And actually there's many different reasons. And, yes,
Hiya, you're right.
Pricing is a big part to play within that. Clearly, data enrichment can influence pricing and has a big part to play, and fraud, obviously. But there are many other areas as well. From profit to regulatory adherence. Things like KYC, know your customer, etc. Reducing claims, looking at conversions, cancellations, margin, all of these different variables, to a greater or lesser extent, you and your business are going to care about, and can focus different elements of an individual data enrichment strategy at. So I think it's worthwhile bearing that in mind, and that there's not one single application there. So I'm just going to work through, hopefully that works. I'm just going to work through some of those individual components, and we're going to start with the data sources, really. And just to say that, there is a massive range of data sources out there, and as the kind of circular diagram here shows, these can be directed at many different areas, either in terms of things like fraud and claims and quote, but equally different areas and characteristics of an individual, of a vehicle, of a property, that you're trying to really understand. So it's important to kind of, understand that breadth and understand what are you looking to achieve, back to the previous slide, and, what are the different data sources that are out there. And clearly you're not going to be necessarily able to integrate, take on board all of those data sources, but, having a clear view across those data sources is quite a good start, at least. And then, you can start to look at, well, how relevant are they to, to the lines that I'm in, or the niche that I'm focused on? How accurate are they? How easy is it to access those and implement those? And yeah, commercials is obviously important as well. So then we can start to think about how can we use those data attributes, those different data sources in combination, because used individually, claims databases can be very useful. Used individually, policy databases. I've brought up a credit bureau example here. Each of these individual data sources can be useful on their own, but I think the real power comes when you start to combine them. So in this example here, we've started to combine multiple credit bureau sources, but this could be, combining the Q data with NCD, with ID, with, vehicle data, etc. It's how you pull all of those things together that you can drive more and more impact for your business, more and more uplift and understanding of your customers. And I think in this example here, you probably can't quite see the detail. Obviously, we're going to share these slides with you, but it's just trying to illustrate the point, really, that if you take just one source and assume that that's the de facto, that's not always the case. And actually, looking at two or more sources, either across data sets or of the same, presumably of the same data set, can actually yield, more and more uplift and give you a bigger insight into an individual customer, into the risk and the opportunity that they present. So I think that's worth bearing in mind. As I say, some of these things, are kind of more citers. We're not necessarily, everyone's not going to be able to do this from day one, but it is, it is where things are going. I mentioned pricing, and that's a very obvious place to start in terms of your data enrichment strategy, where you might be looking to get a big bang for your buck. Obviously understanding your risk more effectively according to data. And, obviously insurance has always been a data-based business, understanding risk and having factors and variables that help you understand that better is what separates the the winners from the losers ultimately. So I think having that, being able to input that easily into pricing, and also having the sophistication and flexibility to change and adapt that as you get new data sources on, as things changed, is really important as well. And I will touch on that in a bit. And I think, again, ideally, a full-on data science capability with, with multiple different, kind of ways of manipulating the data, of building models, of using the latest machine learning, even AI is, that should be an ambition. But again, it's appreciating that not everyone's there, and it may be that Aviva and Direct Line and people like that have got roomfuls of data scientists. That's not necessarily where all MGAs are at. Some MGAs are obviously very sophisticated in this, but there's various factors coming into play here in terms of what is your analytics capability ultimately. But there are different ways around that, and we will say this, but partnering with people in this area is is an easy, flexible, low-cost way to do it as well. One of the other components is kind of comes down to consistency really, and just making sure that you're consistently applying that data enrichment strategy across your business. Be that looking at life cycle, so that you're taking the same strategy, the same attributes, and treating customers in the same way ultimately, whether that be at renewal or quote or MTA. And exactly the same for lines, and yeah, there's going to be some differences obviously in the data that's available. If you look across from commercial to property to personal car, but equally there are some consistent data variables there as well. And wherever you can, it's important to take a good approach that looks to combine all of those things and provides that consistency of approach. Management information. So we're kind of talking around that at a high level. So you've got an effective data enrichment strategy. You're implementing it across your business, across lines. You're starting to try new things. The ability to track those things and see, I've changed something. What is the result of that? How has that impacted on my business? Has that hopefully improved things? Are there unintended consequences of changing a certain factor, or kind of gaining something on one side and losing it on the other? So having that as near to real time as possible, and at least being able to track when those changes are made and understand how that changes over time in terms of what the impact there is really important. So obviously encourage you to work with partners or have the internal capability to really dig into that MI and then go through that test and learn. So, let's do more of the stuff that's working and less of the stuff that's not. This is also to say, and I kind of mentioned it earlier really, this isn't just for pricing, it's not just for your analytics, your data science. it's a whole organisational perspective, and each of the areas within your business will be affected by data enrichment, or at the very least need to be aware of what the impact is for the business and for their particular area. So IT needs to be involved in some way in integration and change control and that sort of stuff. Finance are going to have to pay for it, but equally are going to be very interested in the business impact on the bottom line of changes and a new strategy that you put together. The legal team are going to be very interested in compliance and whether everything is being done according to the latest regulatory framework, as well as all of the usual areas and claims in pricing and in analytics, etc. So I think this can be said for most things, but encouraging people to really look at the impact of the data enrichment strategy across all those areas of their business, ensure that you've got buy-in from those areas and that they feel part of that journey, and obviously that they're very clear in terms of what the outcomes both for them and for the overall business are from following this. Again, we would say this, but I think MGAs are very good at understanding that insurance is an ecosystem, and that nobody can kind of work alone really. It's just not possible to work across this business and just do your own thing really, whether that be technical partners or insurers, brokers, partners, etc. It's an ecosystem. We need to be able to work together, and when we're doing that, we need to understand what kind of business are we, because if we're a fast-moving, dynamic, flexible business, then ideally you need to be working with partners who share those values and share that ability, because if you're trying to move really fast and make changes and do things in a really nimble kind of way, and your partners can't, that could be what's actually blocking you from moving forward. So definitely something to consider, I think. And almost finally, from my perspective anyway, future proofing. So it's thinking about what's going to work for me now, what's going to work for me in a year, 2 years, 3 years time, but being able to be flexible in that approach as well, and understand that things change. COVID happens. Just seeing today the huge increase in crash for cash, for example. The market changes, fraudsters change, consumer behavior changes, and we need to evolve. We need to see that as much as we can as it comes down the line, and be kind of forecast that happening and be able to change and adapt as we go along that road. So that's almost it really. But just to re-emphasize that, what I'm trying to put out there is not everyone has to be, at this particular point, has to be an absolute exemplar of what I was talking about there. Just recognizing where you are, that nobody's got this spot on. There's people who are very sophisticated and have been doing this for 20 years, and there's people who are just, kind of working out on that journey. So I think it's key to recognize where you are, what the gaps are, and just to move forward and take steps to improve really. So I'll just round off before I hand over to Toby by saying we have put a quiz together. So you can, if you want to take the data enrichment quiz, I think we've entitled it, "Are you a data enrichment rockstar?" quite snappily. And I think there's 10 questions on there, and you can grade yourself and then understand, kind of where you are really on that continuum. And it's not, it probably takes 30 seconds, but it's, a bit of fun, but should be insightful as well. So yeah, thanks for your time. I think at this stage I will attempt to pass over to Toby.
Yeah, this worked very well when we tried it before. Let's see how this goes now.
Wow, there we go.
Just like, that's pretty pro, isn't it? There we go. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Toby McLaughlin here from Ignite Systems. So thank you very much for that, Rich. what I'm going to do today is I'll go through the overview here, is give you a case study of a brokerage, which is Wrapper, that John's going to talk about afterwards, where Ignite, my company, has worked with Percayso to integrate Percayso's data enrichment facilities and sort of bring that to life with how we use it, what the plan is for it going forward, the timescales involved, the complications, and all of that type of thing. So we'll cover off some minor technical points of the integration, then have a look at the content of what Wrapper gets at the moment and what they're getting in future, and how we report upon the data that we get from Percayso, and then how we use that data for rate management and that side of things. So I'll first off, I'm going to show you the Wrapper interface. This is John's baby, really, but this is a video of someone getting a quote on the Wrapper site. Ignite, as a company, provides all of the policy administration side of this business, but also we provide for the customer facing side as well. So this is the customer facing journey for a motorhome product, and the person's going through here filling in their details about the motorhomes they've just done, but then also about their personal details, which is obviously critical for the data enrichment element of it. Percayso is actually one of a number of data enrichment services that Wrapper uses. We're quite sort of forward thinking, I hope, in that respect. We try to use as many as possible. So we'll see which ones those are in a second, but ones that we've seen thus far are vehicle lookups, and here this is a address lookup using locate, and also a driver's license input here. So we've pre-filled the driving license with as much as we're able to, because I don't know how many of you know, but the first 10 or so digits of a driver's license are just formed of the date of birth, surname and first name. Then the last four are more randomly generated. So this question set is relatively short, and one of the reasons that we're able to keep the question set nice and short is because of data enrichment. So at this point, we've filled in the question set. We're going off to go and get a price, and we are using these services, obviously Percayso being the primary one, and we also go out to CarWeb for DVLA lookup. We look at My License, which gives us information about convictions on the license, license validity and so forth, locate for postcodes, HM government for sanctions. And the Percayso side of things covers off a multitude of a variety of possibilities. So, for example, we didn't ask about claims, or we can ask about claims, but we can also validate that against any claims database that Percayso gives us access to. Credit scores are important for a number of reasons, whether it's rating or whether it's offer premium finance and so forth. And then a number of other different data sources that Rich alluded to that we can start to make use of. And we'll see those as we come towards the back office side of things. But as far as the customer is concerned, they've just seen a nice short question set. And that quote data, along with the information that Percayso has sent back to us, we then use to rate. And these are some of the insurers that that are partnered with the Ignite system. KGM is the insurer for this particular motorhome scheme for Wrapper, or with others coming online soon, I should say, plug. So KGM take into account some of the data that Wrapper brings back. So, it's gone too fast. Oh, okay, there we go. A premium's been generated, and you can see the quote reference has been given, and the underwriter provided, and so forth. And as we go down, you've got the option to pay monthly or in full. As I mentioned, data enrichment can inform your decisions about what payment options to offer a customer, for example. Then we have add-on products, which I know John's very keen on. He's got a plethora of add-on products. So here we go, breakdown covers being selected, and key protection, and all the rest. There's 4 in total. Don't worry, it will end. And then we have the payment details. So just entering payment details. That's the direct journey. We are, as Ignite, as a policy admin system, is also integrated with all of these price comparison websites, some of which Wrapper currently makes use of. Ignite as a company works with about 20 or 30 different brokers and MGAs across the UK. So they make use of these price comparison websites, whether that's for motorhome or private car or different products. There's a whole variety, really. So once a customer's bought a policy, one thing that Wrapper does as a sort of market leader in this area of lifestyle insurance is to offer a customer portal. Now, a customer portal can just be for documents and account management, but Ignite and Wrapper offer the customer the opportunity to manage their policy themselves. So they can do any MTAs they want to. They can renew their own policies passively or actively. They can even cancel their policy on the portal. They can see their claims. It really is fully self-service. And the reason that Wrapper and our other brokers have confidence in offering that to the end customer is because we really feel like we know the end customer through the data that we get back from Percayso. It gives confidence both to the broker and to the insurer. So the customer then, this is an example of just a test one of a customer logging in. As you can see here, they've got one car policy in this case that they can manage or upgrade. You can see they can do their renewals on here. If they've done other quotes, they'll appear in here. And indeed, if they've got other products like a van policy or even a pet policy, that will appear within their same portal. So if we just look at the policies area here, you've got the option to make changes, cancel, renew. And this is an example of a customer doing a midterm adjustment. All of their existing details are in there, but if they want to add a driver, remove a driver and so forth, they can do that. And if they are adding a driver, then we will do those further data enrichment checks at that point in time. So in this case, they've been given an additional premium and you can see some add-ons being offered to them again. John's very keen on his add-ons, so there's always add-ons. That's the customer side of things. So the customer can buy online and then they can self-serve online, really because we know that much about the customer throughout the journey. We then come to the call center area. So if a customer's buying over the phone, or if you want to sort of review for audit purposes, call center users can drill down into the data that Percayso supply. So this is used for a number of reasons. One is to understand what's gone on, improve the customer interactions by saying, we noted that this has come out of the data that we found, or that we're able to offer you these types of products. And they're also able to do analytics on the same thing. So what you've got up on screen here, I'm aware it's a bit busy, I'll explain it in a second, is a customer view in the administration area of Ignite. So on the left-hand menu, you've got the customer details. That's my details as it happens in this case. They're not real, really. You can't copy them. And then across the top up here, you've got a timeline, which shows you the different phases. So the new business, any tasks created, cancellations, renewals, MTAs, they'll all appear within there. And towards the bottom, the policy itself, who it's underwritten by, what dates it's effective from, and so forth. The buttons you've got there, things like policy summary, policy history. Policy history bit is the bit really relevant to Percayso, because here you can go and see where the data enrichments actually happen. But just before that, I don't obviously have control of this video. I'm going to show you some of the documents that are produced from system. So this is a certificate, for example, that's issued, and yeah, well, that was quick. Part of what you can see in the call center is a breakdown of rates. So here you can see the base rate and all the multipliers that have been applied through it. But there's also a tab at the top called enrichment. And I will stress this is test data and disclosure. There's call credit is mentioned in here, and actually it's Equifax that Percayso used for that particular service. But as we click through here, you can see the different fields and data sets that Percayso are able to supply back, things like number of CCJs, credit score, bankruptcy warnings, sanctions checks warnings, that type of stuff. That's all available there within the back office, which can be quite a powerful tool. When it comes to reporting on the Percayso data, this is the really critical bit, because Wrapper is a relatively new start as a company, and it's the beginning of understanding its client base and on its data enrichment journey. Ignite also works with much larger brokers. Up to our largest clients have about 200 million of premium each, and they have much more established data enrichment strategies. But the principle still stands. You still need to be able to report on this stuff, and because there's such a rich mine of data there, we create reports within Power BI. So some of you may well be familiar with this. This is a Power BI dashboard. It's a Microsoft tool that we layer on top of the database that you get. As you can see from this, you can click around with it. And one of the nice things is it's very responsive. So as you click into things, the data changes to show certain factors of work. So we can set up dashboards specifically for data enrichment. So looking at the number of CCJs, the number of rejections, quote rejections on the back of data enrichment. And that's very important particularly for Ignite customers. So Ignite is a policy administration system, as I mentioned, for brokers and MGAs, but there's a kind of a blurred line between those types of companies, the broker and the MGA. They've got to both add value at some point. And whether that's through distribution or pricing or customer journey or whatever understanding of their customer base, they need to add that value. And that's what this data is very good for. So in Wrapper's case, even though they're not an MGA, they're still providing feedback to their panel of insurers and MGAs that they work with. And that's liaising with them, coming up with insights that they can then use to establish better pricing, better rules, better processes as part of it. So here we come on to rating with Percayso data. So Ignite has a rating engine, which in this case for Wrapper has a KGM scheme in it. And we in-build with a couple of others at the moment because the Wrapper panel is expanding. And the way that we build the scheme is in Excel. We used to code all the schemes that we got, the rating algorithms that we got from MGAs and from insurers. And that was a bit of a pain, really. It took a while to do and so forth. So we've created in the last year or so a tool that converts schemes that are held within Excel into code. So all of the rates now on Ignite are managed within Excel, which means that brokers like John, who have a certain degree of flexibility with the pen, or MGAs, can use our Excel scheme builder and just manage their rates within Excel if they want to. So I'll show you a little bit of a walk through this. This is the first tab within the Excel rating engine. This contains all of the input data. So you'll notice things like proposer gender and proposer license type and this type of thing, which are all of the possible inputs from the question set, and then column B is what the actual answer is that's given. And obviously that varies quote by quote, so some sample data. From there we come onto the algorithm, which is the rating steps. Starts with a base rate, fairly classic, and then it's what we call a linear regression. I'm sure you guys are all and ladies are all familiar with this linear regression algorithm. So a simple base rate times by multipliers for different factors as you go. That doesn't have to be the way that you do it. Anything that Excel can do and support, then we can support as well. So if we just go to the base rate, it's currently at 1200. This demonstrates the very difficult thing of changing a cell in Excel from 1200 to 1500. But then we look at something like, here we go, vehicle, year of make. This is then taking the input, which is 2014, translating that into 7 years old, and then applying a particular loading for that based on the table below. And amending the numbers within these tables is the way that we do rate updates. You can also amend the relationships between tables, but that tends to happen less frequently. It tends to be that people are updating the numbers within tables rather than relationships between tables. And here we're looking at credit scores. So this is one of the fields that Percayso provides back. Actually, for Wrapper, there's more of a traffic light system because they're early on and they don't want to be too prohibitive in what they do. But this is an example of how we decode a message from Percayso. So it has a credit score of, say, 700. And again, that looks for a rate within here, and it's combining a factor of a credit score of 700 with a number of drivers, so insured only or insured +1, +2, +3, just to show how we can combine factors in all of this as well. This is quite important because it means that data from Percayso can be used to as part of the net rating process, rather than a sort of layer on top of that then changes commission or net rate after the fact. It can be used as a very sort of intertwined part of the rating process, which is important for making best use of it, really. I think that's all I thought there was something else, but anyway, there's obviously not. So yeah, thanks for watching. I say questions are welcome. Apparently we're doing questions at the end. So I will hand over to John.
Okay, thanks very much, Toby. And Rich, thanks very much for inviting us on as well to talk about our journey on the data enrichment path. Toby has stole a little bit of my thunder on some of the stuff that he's been talking about, but that'll probably be music to everyone's ear, because I'm sure everyone's very busy and wants to get back to doing their day job as well. But you will have heard the introduction at the beginning of the chat about Wrapper, and I was thinking, God, that's long, but then I realized I had actually written it, so apologies. Wrapper, we're a brand new business. We launched in March, and basically the business has been born out of me wanting to do things differently to what I've done for 20 years. So my background, I had 10 years at Carol Nash, the big motorcycle insurer, and then 10 years after that at a broker called Fish Insurance, which were market leaders in disability and mobility and elderly led products. Latterly, the 6 years of that as managing director, and led the business through a few successful sale processes. Wrapper is basically everything I've learned in 20 years. It's all of the stuff that I've been told no, I couldn't do. It's free of legacy systems, it's free of legacy processes, and it's building basically on everything that I believe a new modern digital broker should look like. So naturally, at the very start of our journey, I didn't want data enrichment and validation to be an afterthought. I wanted it to be part of the process and part of the plan of us building, what is going to be a very successful broker. We were introduced to Percayso by Toby during our scoping and build of the Ignite system, and it just happened at the perfect time when Percayso were, as a relatively new business themselves, looking for new integration partners and then looking for new clients. And for me, that was brilliant timing. So coming from my background of very niche schemes, so ensuring anything from a mobility scooter through to prosthetic limbs to obviously motorcycles in my early career at Carol Nash, data enrichment hasn't really been part of our journey. We were very much doing validation at the back end and only a very little bit at Fish. So I was really a novice and didn't really understand the mass and available information that is available to brokers or MGAs or whoever. And therefore, having Percayso there at the very start and Ignite has meant that my experience and knowledge of data enrichment has gone through the roof. I would say I'm not an expert, but I certainly know 10 times as much as I did this time last year. But what it's also done is it's meant that I have felt reassured, confident, and have been able to take the small steps rather than doing it all at once. I think I'm one of these people who, if I don't really understand what someone's talking about, I won't just sit there and kind of accept it and then try and learn or think about it as it's gone. I'll just cut the conversation dead and go, can you please explain to me, because I really don't understand. And I think the approach from Percayso has been very accommodating in that, because I've probably asked a hell of a lot of stupid questions, but they're questions that they've probably heard 100 times and they're happy to answer, because we would rather be going along this journey all knowing the right direction and the information. Waffling a little bit, sorry. Wrapper in itself, we are fully online. We're a self-service lifestyle and leisure broker. We are wanting to change this leisure and lifestyle market, and we're looking to enhance these underserved technological markets, motorhome, caravan, gap, you know, we're entering micro-mobility, all of these lines that really should be touch button, mobile, direct, not lack of human interaction, but a different way of doing it. Our data enrichment allows us to really improve and streamline that customer journey, as it were. When we were looking at data enrichment providers, obviously we met Percayso very early on. I'd had limited experience with Experian or LexisNexis and a couple of others. And to be honest with you, I'm sure if there are any other startups or anybody knows or you're supporting any startups, it's really challenging to get traction, regardless of how well connected you are or what your experience previously has been like, or your successes. There is always an element of, right, okay, you're a startup, what can you guarantee us, what your volume's going to be, what your numbers, how many checks are you going to be doing. Very, very different with Percayso. I found it really difficult communicating with the others because it was purely based on numbers, whereas actually Percayso wanted to understand where we were in our journey, what we wanted to achieve now, what we wanted to achieve in 12 months, and more importantly, what the next 3 to 5 years look like, and really become a true partner on this data enrichment journey that we're going on. So all credit to them on that. What have we learned as we've been going along? Again, don't be afraid to ask stupid questions. Number 2, there is pretty much data everywhere, so it can consume you and it can overwhelm you. My biggest advice would, take it in bite-sized chunks. You don't have to think about everything all at the same time. And Toby alluded to, as did Rich earlier on, that we've started on a traffic light program, which is really quite simple. Everybody's aware of red, amber, green. Our model is we have a certain tolerance in each field, and we allow, clearly if it's a bad score or a bad result, that's red. Medium, we take a view on, which is the amber, and obviously green just sails straight through. There's huge benefit in that for us because it means, A, it's quite a fast integration and we're up and running quickly. It means that we can build a level of legacy data so that we can start modeling a bit more of a detailed approach and view on our acceptance criteria. But also it keeps it simple. I am not a data enrichment expert, and I'm sure everybody else isn't either. And it is the reason why we partner with companies like Percayso, and also, from a system solution from Ignite. I think the great thing is that they are always open and willing to help and support. We're now talking to them about what we're doing for our different products that we've got in the pipeline. It's not just a case of, okay, we've launched that product now. Okay, so what are we doing in terms of data enrichment? They are part of the journey, and I think that's equally important. And I stress that to any sort of suppliers, third-party partners. Is if you take people on the journey with you, then it's a lot easier to get things done, and there's no ambiguity, and things are a lot clearer. For us, next phases, as we talked about and Toby said, we won't be adding more add-ons. As Toby said, we are keen on add-ons. I'm expecting probably quite a few people emailing us their add-on products over shortly to see whether or not they can get them on our panel. But what else have we got going on? We want to build different data sets in. So, we want to look at policy history. We'll look at gaps in cover. We'll look at the claims and the cancellation insights. you know, sanctions, driving license, all of these data sources are helping us build sort of what we deem to be our perfect consumer. And my, you know, my goal from the very start of this was having understood how some brokers do their enrichment and validation. It's always, you know, a lot of the after the event. So we're quite happy to take a policy on and then do driving license checks or no claim bonus checks. I didn't want to do that. You know, that requires administration. That requires bums on seats for checking policies that, if you partner with the right people, Percayso and Ignite, this stuff can just form part of an automated workflow. And this means that not only are you checking before you've taken policies out, you know who your customer is, you know their background, you know their history. You're also really streamlining your customer journey, but you're also streamlining your back office and the administration of it. You don't require somebody sat there checking through all of your policy sales and then having to deal with any of the administration if anything falls out of that traffic light signal. So you could take a policy on and it's a red and you didn't know about it until they've already paid. Unnecessary administration costs. What else to talk about? Toby mentioned a few things that will give you some insight. Last thing to probably say is take it seriously. If you're not doing it and you want to do it, you know, Percayso are a fantastic partner. As I've said, a very collaborative approach, incredibly flexible, and they will provide you with a solution that is fit for purpose for you for the particular time in your journey or for your future plans. From Wrapper's perspective, you know, Q2 is very busy for us. We've got lots of new products coming on board, new providers for motorhome. We've got our touring caravan product going live, Gap, as I said, micro-mobility, all of which at some point have got a data enrichment work stream involved in it. And it's just really exciting to see where we'll develop over the next 12 to 24 months with both the partnership with Percayso and Ignite. I think that's about it. Sorry if I've waffled on, but that sort of gives you a good idea from the coalface, what it's like going from a data enrichment, let's say, idiot to someone who actually is probably getting there in terms of the knowledge, and that's all been provided and supported by Percayso and through Ignite. So thank you for listening to me waffle. I'll hand back over to Julia, I think.
Yes, thanks
Julia.
Thank you. I've just got a poll question to put to delegates on the very topic that's been discussed. So the poll question that Percayso would like to put to you is, how do you rate your current capability and use of data enrichment? So I'm going to launch the polling. So if you could, hopefully you can see your screens. The answers, the options are no experience, some experience but limited, some experience in building, or extensive experience. So thank you. I can see we've got lots of participants, so thank you for that. Interesting at the moment, we've got, just taking the lead is some experience in building, which is great to see. So we've got 60% of our attendees have voted, and if people have finished their voting, we've got a couple more. At the moment, we've got 44% have some experience and building, 37% some experience but limited. We've got 15% who have extensive experience and just 4% with no experience. So thank you. That's 72% of delegates voted there. So thank you for that. Would you like to comment on that, our presenters, Richard, Toby, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, you know, it's really interesting to see those results come through, actually. And I did expect a range of different capabilities there. I think, as I said when we started there, and that kind of bears that out. It's good to see that you know, the majority are have some experience in building. But obviously, as I say, it's a journey, and the MGA sector being as dynamic as it is, there's startups and there's people that are will be starting pretty much from scratch. So, but it's also good to see that there are some exemplars in there out there as well. Four MGAs out there have got extensive experience. Although one of those might be my vote. So,
I hope you put extensive in that case, Richard.
Yeah. Should we go to questions now?
Yes,
that's a good time. I mean,
yep.
Just very quickly before that, thanks to John for that overview. That was really insightful, and thanks Toby as well. I mean, we had a great experience with integrating with Ignite. We integrate with a few software platforms, but I have to say Ignite was an absolute breeze, really easy to do, and the people were great as well, which really helped. So they were the kind of Carlsberg of software house integrations, which is pretty cool. And thanks to John as well. Believe it or not, I'm not at the side with a gun to his head asking him to say all those nice things. So we appreciate that, and we appreciate working with you guys. So should we go to questions?
Yeah, okay. So our first question is, what do you see are the key advantages of using a data hub rather than connecting directly with each data provider?
Okay, yeah. So I think if we go back to the round circle and all of the different data points, there are so many different data points, and it might be that you only start with a few, but you need to have your eye on the future as well. And I think just the integrations. If having to integrate with 4, 5, 6, 7 different organisations, some of which are as John alluded to, pretty big and slow, and all that sort of stuff, it's not an easy process to go through. So I think if you can find one source, we would say this to do all of that for you, then I think that's a good thing. Secondly, I think it's about how you manage those data sources and how you take the insight from those in a consumable way. And again, John talked about a traffic light system, which works for Wrapper in the short term, but obviously he's got an eye on how that evolves. But it's about how some of these data sets you can take, and there's 2,000 variables, so if you're a real expert in that area, then that's great. But I think it usually helps to have somebody to help you to interpret those and, do the data science piece and make sense of that.
Thanks, Richard. Next question is, how long would you expect to take to connect to a new data source or software house / distribution partner?
Well, it varies. So yeah, back to the Ignite. I think we were kind of connected in a few weeks, really, which is lightning speed. So I think it depends on the will and the way, and how how dynamic, flexible, and what the how up to date the software house is, the software platform that you're working with. And obviously there's some legacy ones out there that are more harder than others. I think a new data source, once you're up and running, it depends on the data source a little bit, but typically, and if you're going through a data hub, then it can be a week or two, to be honest. It's more about deciding what is going to add value, maybe doing the analytics on that, or at least doing your due diligence on what is really going to add value to your business, where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, and how you're going to use that data source to, alongside everything else that you're doing, really. Thanks,
Richard. Another question, where would you start if you're not enriching data at present?
Well, I think John's being modest, but he took a very pragmatic approach to it, and it really was that what's going to add most value to my business in the short term, and with everything else that I've got going on, that I've got to be focused on, because I'm launching a business and going to market, and I've got to, I've got all these insurers and MGAs and everything else to handle. I've got to keep laser focused on that. So, be pragmatic, start start the journey, in a simple fashion, but focus those things on the things that are going to have the biggest impact. Really, it sounds obvious, but don't try and do too much. Don't try and be too over sophisticated in those early days, and then test and learn and add value in further phases, really.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, so there's no further question. Oh, hold on, there might be one. Here we've got another question. How key are data standards to integrations?
Well, I don't know if Toby's got any input.
Yeah, I can fill that one if you like. We've integrated with a number of different data enrichment providers, and really there were some standards that were imposed a little while ago by certain ones of the big hubs, but really that was done for legacy reasons. They couldn't send a lot of data at aggregator volumes, and so we've kind of broken through that barrier now, actually, from Percayso and some select others, but not many. We just take as much of the data and ingest as much of the data as possible. I think historically the data hubs were a bit of a closed, sort of a black box. You sort of got this sort of reformatted data out of it, and you were told to do with it what you would. It's now a lot more collaborative. You get all of the data as the software house, as the broker, as the insurer, as the MGA, and it's really understanding that data where the big value add is. So data standards are really not so important anymore.
Thanks for that, Toby. Okay, so we don't have any more questions, so I just once again like to thank Percayso, Richard, Toby and John for your time and insight into the benefits of a data enrichment strategy, and in particular the real life example of a company embarking on their data enrichment journey. It's always good to have a case study, I think, to put the discussion into practice, so to speak. So thank you for that. So just to recap on your CPD learning objectives today, you will have a good understanding of what data enrichment is and the principal building blocks of an effective strategy, a view of the technical and integration considerations across a variety of platforms and distribution channels, an understanding of typical commercial arrangements, an understanding of the benefits and outcomes that a cohesive data enrichment strategy can drive for an MGA, and a real-life example of an insurance provider embarking on their data enrichment journey. So thanks all of you for joining. Again, thanks again to Percayso. We will be sending out the slides to delegates, and we would really appreciate the completion of the feedback survey that we'll send. It's a SurveyMonkey survey. So please do provide as much information free type as you can on the feedback, because it's most appreciated. And just finally, for delegates, please do look out for the RRI research that the MGA are currently doing to understand members' needs and wants for the progression of our association going forward. So we'd appreciate your completion of that too. So thanks once again. Hope everyone has a nice afternoon. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you.